Hey everybody, welcome to chapter 11, the mixed economy for the economics IGCSE.
Hi, everybody.
First of all, we start with our definitions. Economy, a system that attempts to solve the basic economic problem. Private sector, provision of goods and services by businesses owned by individuals or groups of individuals. Basically, in simple words, goods and services are provided for by firms or privately owned. Next, we've got the public sector, which is basically when the government provides the goods and services in the economy. And yeah, that's basically it. Next, we've got the private sector. The two definitions is obviously shareholders, which are people or organizations that have shares in a company. So they basically buy future profits, if that makes sense. Next, we've got dividends, which is basically a part of the profit that is divided among the shareholders. If the profits that a firm has are low, then that means that the dividends are also going to be low. So the shareholders are going to be getting less money, and that's why they're not going to be satisfied if, let's say, they have shares in a really big company and the company isn't doing that good. They're going to be pissed off. Anyway, next we've got basically the types of privately owned firms that can be. So if you want to screenshot this, there's no point for me to explain it. I mean, you guys probably know this anyway. Next we've got the aims. Aims, obviously, first of all, it's survival. Survival mainly because the person who is opening a new firm, they're investing a lot of money for them to be able to start up this new business. And if it works, then it works, and they can make profit off of it eventually. But if the business isn't doing that good, then they're gonna struggle. So the main goal is basically to survive and to basically make the money back that you invested in opening up the business. Next, we've got social responsibility. This is mainly directed towards larger firms. For example, if a firm has like a big scandal or something, then people are going to boycott it and they're not going to want to be buying from that brand anymore. So obviously social responsibility is important to large firms so that they can keep their customers happy, and so that they don't have any sort of backlash in general that will affect their profits. Next, we've got obviously maximizing profit, this is part of chapter 2 actually. Maximizing profits. Obviously, why does a firm want to maximize profits? Like, you tell me, it's common sense. Obviously, profits means that they have more money. They can invest it to grow their company so that they can make even more money and exploit economies of scale. This is the point I said above about the shareholders. The more profits that they make, the higher the dividends. So the shareholders are going to be happy and they're going to be buying more shares, if that makes sense. So basically, the shares are a way for the firm to get even more money. This we'll explore in chapter, I think, 19, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I don't really remember. Anyway, next, we've got obviously growth. Growth is important because they can exploit economies of scale. So that means that they'll have higher profits in the future. This will obviously benefit the workers as well because the workers will be getting paid more money. But the evaluation for this point is that growth needs profit. So any money that you make from your profits and you want to grow your firm, the dividends are going to be lower, so the shareholders are not going to be happy. So that's basically like an evaluation for that. An evaluation for maximizing profit, it's basically everything from chapter 2, which is like they might be like a non-profit, they might have different objectives, yada yada yada. You guys know that chapter. Now we're going to go into the public sector. The public sector is basically when the goods and services are distributed by the government. First of all, we've got the aims. Aims obviously include improving the quality of the services. You don't want to be paying taxes and then seeing that these taxes go towards nothing because every single public good is bad and not a good quality thing that you would use. For example, public transport. Obviously, it's important to know that the public sector does not want profit and they just want to basically provide for the citizens, allegedly. Next, we've got low costs. They want to decrease their costs because obviously the government, we know that it's inefficient. So they obviously hire too many people. They're basically increasing their costs in different ways. And so the government obviously wants to have costs lower because, I mean, they're wasting their government revenue. Next, we've got private and public sector, the production of goods. Basically, the only important thing here is for the public goods public sector, we need to know that they provide public goods and merit goods, and that they're non-excludable and non-rivalry. Meaning non-excludable, that no one can be excluded from using it. For example, streetlights. I can't really think of anything else right now. And non-rivalry, meaning that if it's used by one person, it doesn't make other people not able to use it. For example, like the police. If one person calls the police on someone, doesn't mean that like the police can't work anymore because they're used for one person. Like that's a really bad example, but that's all that can come into my head right now. And next we've got the free rider problem. Individual who enjoys the benefit of a good but allows others to pay for it. The reason why the merit goods and the public goods work is because people pay taxes, and these taxes go towards those public goods. Okay, next we've got types of economies. We've got three types of economies. We've got the free or enterprise economy, which relies mainly on the private sector. We've got the command or planned economy, which relies mainly on the public sector. And we've got the mix, which relies on both. Next, we've got the definition of market failure, which is basically when the market leads to inefficiencies. The reasons for market failure include externalities, and that's basically extra costs that businesses don't take into account that affect third parties, for example, pollution. The government intervenes and prevents this by heavily fining businesses and firms that result to a lot of pollution. So this obviously increases their costs, so results to market failure. Lack of competition. Lack of competition leads to market failure because consumers can be exploited. If there's less competition, that means that firms can decrease the quality, increase the price, and decrease innovation, which is bad for the consumers. And so the government wants to protect the consumers, and they obviously provide legislation that prevents firms from dominating a market. Next, missing market is goods that are produced by the private sector. For example, let's say a private school. They're often really expensive, and lots of people can't afford that luxury. So the intervention is that the government just provides it, and that's why we have public schools, for example. Next, we've got lack of information. Lack of information leads to market failure because it can cause confusion for the consumers. So they might purchase the wrong product. The resources that are not stated at the back, they might result to, let's say if it's like an allergy, if the food at the back isn't shown, then people can have allergic reactions and they won't be able to know what they're buying. And so to prevent this, the government provides legislation that forces firms to provide information for their products. And then lastly, we have factor immobility, is when, let's say, a firm has technology that can easily switch between productions. For example, if I'm producing now plastic forks and I want to produce plastic water bottles, if I can easily switch between the production of the two goods according to which one's higher in demand, that's factor mobility. If I can't do that, and for example, if I work in a hospital and there's doctors for like neurosurgery, let's say, you can't ask a doctor who's, let's say, an optometrist to have a brain surgery on someone. So that's immobile. And so how the government fixes this is basically it trains workers. The examples I gave were extreme, but like I hope you guys understood it. And yeah, that's chapter 11.